analyzing, and appropriately sanitizing and disseminating private sector information, for sharing important information about vulnerabilities, threats, and intrusions and anomalies. I'm paraphrasing. There's a lot more in there, but there's nothing super specific. The ISACs were originally suggested by the PCCIP back in '97. They came up with a report after Clinton asked them to go and study what's needed to protect the United States infrastructure. The basic idea is to share, correlate, and analyze information to protect the critical infrastructure. ISACs currently exist for a number of different industries, or they're in process. Financial services was first. The various power industries are currently working on theirs. IOPS and a few other folks thought it would be a good idea to create an ISAC for the ISP industry. We're looking to solve problems that cross the boundaries of economics, competition, and we're hoping for a design that would allow for a wide range of participation by a wide range of types of service providers. So our proposed goal is to help coordinate the resolution of Internet problems and to help protect the Internet. We're hoping to do that through A, communication, creating and using a framework in which information about incidents can be shared by ISPs in real time or near time in order to mitigate the impact and duration of these incidents, and B, through analysis, by creating and using ISP-ISAC databases of both active events and informational reports of vulnerabilities, configuration issues, etc., in order to establish best practices, identify common hardware, software problems, forewarn against future problems, etc. What the hell do I mean when I say all that? Our operating plan design right now, it's very loose, but the idea is that the ISAC will collect data through reports about outages, reports from you guys, reports from users, incidents that they notice, concerns that people bring to their attention, advisories submitted by members collected from other sources. The ISAC will manage some tickets for active issues, opening the notification, the resolution, the closure, and members will be alerted to both the current incidents and other significant data. We're hoping for a situation, for instance, if Genuity says we're having an outage in Florida, and UnionNet also says we're having an outage in Florida, and the ISAC figures out, hey, there's a fiber cut in Florida, maybe all these things are related, and that information can be disseminated. We're hoping to maintain a database of past issues, i.e. closed tickets, and important network-related information. The analysis and correlation, like I said, to try and put together information that may be related, may not be related, but at least you'll have all the information in front of you. Organizationally, we're proposing that it be either a limited liability company or a not-for-profit. That entity will contract with somebody to operate and maintain the 7x24 systems that'll be those ticketing systems I was talking about, and that'll meet with the requirements that we put together and handle day-to-day details. We're estimating right now that it may cost annually between $5,000 and $7,000. Those suggestions and the next several slides, which are the requirements we put together, are based on lessons learned from previous attempts. I've participated in a number of consortia. Other people I know have participated. I've had a lot of talks with various people who've run into all kinds of problems. And the fact is nothing's perfect. Nothing's going to work for everyone. It's not going to make everybody happy no matter what we do. Getting operators to do this is both difficult and cruel if you're doing it manually, so automation is going to be a key factor here. No one wants to give up any information without getting something first, and no one trusts anyone. So a non-ISP third-party vendor is crucial. And this function, this information gathering and dissemination has to be someone's job or it's just going to fall on the floor. Okay, with this in mind, we put together a list of requirements for potential vendors to use as a guideline for their estimates. If you decide to participate, if you decide to come and help us out with finalizing the ISAC, you can modify these, augment them, remove them, that kind of thing. But this is the stuff that we thought of initially. So multiple databases. By active issues, I mean open tickets, essentially. Historical issues being closed tickets, informational database being something searchable that has all kinds of problem information, configuration problems, and vulnerabilities for different kinds of vendor products. We're looking at multiple input types so people can log into the web or send formatted email or do a variety of other things in order to initiate a report. We're looking at multiple notification methods. In other words, how do you want to be notified if something urgent happens or something really weird goes on, or there's a significant maintenance issue that the ISAC finds out about. You can specify pager, cell, email, that kind of thing. And then adjustable priorities. So if it's a high priority, you want to be paged. If it's a maintenance, you want email, that kind of thing. Active issues in historical databases. This is just based on various experiences I've had with ticketing systems, the minimum that you need. You know, a unique tracking code, the date and time zone, the geographical area, if equipment type is relevant, if software is relevant, the type of incident, some brief description information, updates attached to the ticket, a priority that you can set, the reporting ISP, the affected ISPs, or anonymized information. The informational database I was talking about, again, security information, threats, vulnerabilities, config issues, outside issues, that kind of thing. Some more requirements for the vendor, 99.98 vendor system availability for those databases. That's a few hours every year for maintenance downtime. The vendor needs to have multi-home NOCs. It's not necessarily the participants, that's their vendor. And the vendor needs to have some disaster recovery capability. They need to have enough personnel and computing power for at least 7 simultaneous incidents and over 2,000 simultaneous recipients of notification, and that's just to start with. We're looking to have them be able to scale up depending on how popular or useful this thing turns out to be. Again, searchable historical database, automation, ease of use. We tried to come up with some benefits that would be for both the internet as a whole and also for the participants. What do you get out of this? Why is it useful? Why is it helpful? We feel that participation may help avoid regulation. There's a lot of fear out there, particularly in the government, about what ISPs do, what they don't do, what an outage is, all the stuff that they don't understand. And we all know when the government doesn't understand something, they regulate it. Reports, either outages or security, that are specific and timely would assist in rapid troubleshooting, problem solving. If we pre-sort or have the ISAC pre-sort network-specific news, exploits, that kind of thing, it may save you time. It may be more complete than what an individual might be able to do. We're hoping to establish relationships between the ISAC and other ISACs out there, other entities like the folks who run the maze, the folks who run the NAPs. We're planning on getting people who help support this onto the mailing lists like NANOG and INET Access, talking to the circuit vendors, talking to the performance monitoring companies, and creating a centralized source for that information, again, trying to save time. We're hoping to improve the communication between ISPs to improve repair times and therefore improve the public's experience of the internet. And the next one is really grammatically hard, and I couldn't figure out a good way to say it. But essentially, we wanted to be able to have something that if there's a large-scale incident, there would be something to fall back on, some place that you could go if something really huge is happening and you don't know what to do, and an entity that would help you manage that incident, that would open a ticket, that would sponsor the bridge call, that would help you coordinate the best response to whatever the issue is. Forms for secure real-time or near-time communication, in other words, IRC, instant message type things in a relatively secure format, regular conference calls, and maybe a bulletin board for announcements, that kind of thing. And then hoping to have an ISAC that can provide translation capabilities for other countries. So if we're having a massive routing issue and it's coming from Korea, we have people who can speak Korean and get the issue resolved sooner than later. I actually wrote this out before the NANOG thread on AOL Instant Messenger. Maybe a web page, something that would have red, like a color-coded web page that has in red the major outages happening right now, and yellow things that are clearing up, in green stuff that cleared in the last 6 hours. So if you need to close a bunch of tickets, you're not sure if it's relevant, you can go back and look up what happened previously. And then the convenience of having one place for locating an up-to-date phone list of ISP NOCs, or at least having somebody who can reach out. Why I'm standing here is we need your help. We don't want to do this by ourselves. We put some things together, but we need a lot of help in finalizing, putting this all together. So these are some of the pending issues. These are not questions that I want people to leap up and answer for me right now, but this is what we're working on. This is what we want to discuss. This is what we want a broader audience to come and join us on mailing lists, possibly in a physical meeting or two, to debate some of these issues. We're looking at cost recovery. We're not looking at profit. And we're trying to figure out how to make it as affordable to as many ISPs as possible while still being able to pay the vendor. So should larger ISPs pay more? And if so, why should they pay more? Do they get a benefit out of that? We're wondering whether there should be membership requirements. In other words, who should participate? Should there be a cutoff if you don't have a 24/7 NOC? Do you still get to participate, or do you have to participate through someone else? What qualifies as an internet service provider or a network service provider or an access service provider? Should the vendors be allowed to participate, or should the vendors just be feeding information into the ISAC in return for useful debugging information? I'm not really sure. How do we define an outage? This has been a really major issue for both us and some of the regulatory people. Should there be minimum participation requirements? In other words, you don't get to just join and surf. You get to join and you have to give back. How do we establish trust? In other words, people are going to be giving us sensitive information. How do we convince them that that information isn't going to leak? How do we make sure that information doesn't leak? The most frequently asked question I get about this whenever I talk about it with other people is the government involved? Particularly because I started off with the Presidential Decision Directive with the President's Committee on Critical Infrastructure. All of that was designed based around a government sharing model, and right now we're not planning on doing that. We are not really going to be sending reports there. We could do that in the future, but the members of the ISAC get to decide that. So if you're participating, if you're contributing, you get to help us decide whether or not we're going to be giving this information away, or whether we're going to be anonymizing it, whether we're going to be collating information, simplifying, that kind of thing. We're not done yet. We're trying to firm up the concept. We're trying to get people to talk to us, to contribute what they'd want out of an ISAC. We've collected some sales quotes, which is why we can give a rough estimate. We've got some idea of maybe who our vendor is going to be, although we're still collecting input from vendors. We've talked to some industry experts. We've talked to the other ISACs. We've tried to learn from problems that they had or are having right now. And I'm here to talk about this, to take feedback, to get people to participate, recruit volunteers, and to actually launch the thing. If you do want to participate and not just be a wallflower, actually send information in, this is the email address to send. It's actually a person. The person is not me. It's over at CNRI, so if you see the mail coming from CNRI addresses back to you, that's what it means. We wanted it to be ISP neutral, so that's what a mailing list is. And if you're not sure that you want to participate, but you do want to send me some feedback, you want to communicate with me, that kind of thing, this is how you reach me. That's it. Open for questions.
Yeah, I want to ask a question that came up when ISC first proposed something called the Blind Members Forum, which is, how will you qualify members to make sure that they are wearing white hats rather than gray or black ones?
That is an excellent question. That's something that we haven't specifically resolved yet. That's something that I'm hoping we'll get good feedback from potential members to talk about and work out. I know that there are a lot of white hat ISPs out there that don't know that they have black hats in their NOCs, or maybe not even black hats, but people who think that they're doing the right thing by forwarding outages and forwarding outage information to more public mailing lists. And maybe they are. I mean, maybe they are doing the right thing. Maybe we are too closed-minded and we have to change some of that behavior. But we haven't figured it out yet. We're hoping you'll help us.
There are some people working in some of those NOCs who are causing some of the problems because they think it's fun.
Well, Paul said it almost. Everything I wanted to say. I don't know if you researched on us. My name is Jonas Luster. I'm the ex-chairman of Eurosec. We try to do exactly the same in Europe, and the biggest problem is with the dot-com hype a year ago, 2 years ago, if you only knew where to download DSNF, you were a hacker and a security expert, and you were the guy to work as that in the NOCs and in the security groups. And I mean, looking around us, Humble is here at NANOG. He should be in jail. Shadow Knight works as a security engineer. Other kids work as security engineers. That's the kind of people who will be receiving this. And I think the biggest problem we had at Eurosec was that even if there was no malicious intent, the latest 20 minutes after we published an incident, the incident was widely available via IRC, for example. And it starts with that. You have an IRC channel, two people talking on IRC, a black hat being an admin somewhere and just sniffing the message and modifying his server. So, pardon me. So, communication is always a good thing, but unless you can ensure 100% that communication cannot leak, it's a very, very dangerous thing to do. And I guess the only way to do that is to qualify your participating members better than just saying, hey, dude, you're an ISP, come join in. The way we did it, or we tried to do it, was we had a very, very formal introductory meeting with everybody who wanted to join in, which eventually ruined Eurosec because nobody wanted to join anymore. So, personally, I know there's three layers. There's layer number one, engineer to engineer. Oh my God, I'm being attacked from UNet. There's this dude I met at NANOG. Let's give him a call and tell him, hey dude, something comes from you. That is the kind of communication that's going on every time. It's between me and the attacker. And that's what I personally think the best way to communicate and to work on attacks. Spreading information about attacks or about my vulnerabilities only makes me more vulnerable.
I honestly don't believe that we're going to be able to get a tremendous amount of participation and incredibly sensitive information coming in when we start. What we're trying to put together is something that is useful enough that we can create a community of shared information, that there will be enough give back from the ISAC, reaching out and establishing relationships and trying to centralize certain aspects of how outages are handled, how large-scale issues happen, how shared space like maze and naps go down for problems, go down for maintenance, and not everybody knows at once. I also recognize the fact that every time somebody posted a list of smurfable addresses to NANOG, I saw our smurf attacks spike massively, but I also saw a lot of those networks get closed down. So I can't absolutely promise that this information is going to be secure. I don't actually even expect people to be submitting information when we first start out. I'm hoping to create a forum where we can gradually move towards some way of sharing information without completely tanking ourselves, and whether that means changing the entire paradigm so that when outage reports go out into the world, even if they do end up on the front page of the Wall Street Journal above the fold, that our stock or our reputations are not so massively impacted. I don't know. Maybe it's a possibility, maybe it's not. And I'll just one other thing. Only heard half the words you said, so I'm pretty sure I got the gist of what you're talking about, but I'm not sure if I missed anything.
Go. Okay. Just as a follow-up, if it winds up on the Wall Street Journal, it's over. The second you're most vulnerable is if 90% of your bandwidth is already gone to some kind of attack. So communicating it at the second where it happens is, I guess, the worst thing that you can do in terms of keeping your network safe. I would do it. I'm a full disclosure person. It will be very, very hard to convince the ISP to do it. You know, somebody's just backstabbed you, and now you're telling every mugger in every single side street, hey, I'm already pretty dead, please take my wallet. And if you want help, I can certainly give you whatever I have as information on Eurosec that is still left, and I can give you all the experiences I had with Eurosec, but I doubt that a lot of ISPs will join in on that one. It's a pity, but will be.
I think the ability to try to find a forum that allow people to communicate is good. I think the problem is very difficult to solve and certainly on the trust side of things to get people to communicate with each other. I think my question mainly is focused on how do you go about sanitizing who talks and tells what to who so that you still have useful information flowing back and forth so that you don't have somebody taking a report of a major bad thing happening to Bill's Sushi and Bait network provider and making it happen or show up on the top fold or above the fold on the Wall Street Journal or what have. Who makes that sanitization decision, and how do you go about handling that? I think it's an interesting problem.
Well, part of it is going to be it's going to be a shared burden. Part of it's going to be shared by the ISP itself. If your membership includes no upper limit on how many people you can have from your company participate in the ISAC, get authenticated access to the web page, be able to get on the private IRC channel, that kind of thing. Part of it is going to be pushed back to the ISP to check and make sure that the people that you're having on are not necessarily people who are going to cause problems. And then from the ISAC position, I'm hoping that we'll be able to both create an atmosphere that will, there are always going to be malicious people who are always going to have fun and truly enjoy screwing things up, but create an atmosphere where information sharing becomes as easy as breathing. So it's not very exciting to reveal whatever the information that's flowing, or there's enough small bits of information that gradually get collected into a larger bit that you don't even notice at the point when it passes from something you noticed to an important outage report. Perhaps create a culture. And beyond that, how we decide to authenticate an ISP before we make them a member is going to be something that I'm going to push back to the membership. How do you want to be qualified? Do you want to be qualified based on 24/7 capabilities? Do you want to be qualified based on whether or not you've bonded all of your employees? Do you want to be qualified based on how big you are, how many customers you have? That's going to be something that I don't feel comfortable dictating to people. That's going to be something that I'm going to need to pull back rough consensus, figure it out, and put it into the operating rules and possibly modify it if it doesn't work.
I think the other thing to be careful about is to make sure that you don't have a membership organization that opens up today that allows people in. You've got the bar sort of this high, and then once a certain set of providers are in, they all vote to raise the bar way up here, and you exclude a large portion of potentially valuable other participants. I've seen that happen in some membership organizations elsewhere.
I've seen it happen too, and honestly, I know that there's an overall not so fun feeling when it comes to IOPS. I recognize the pain of exclusionary situations, but I also recognize the tragedy of the commons. If you have just too many people participating and it turns into a giant cesspool, you can't actually have a tremendous amount of quality, or it's very complicated to separate the dross from the flag. That didn't come out right. To separate the gold from the flag. So I am not going to let it happen, or as long as I'm participating. I don't know what to give you past a personal guarantee unless we put it in the operating rules. You guys, the incumbents don't get to change the rules to screw over the new people. Let's write it down. Anyway, thanks.